Question is, have you ever seen that much money before?
No, not all in one place. Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your favorite sports talk show, I'm sure. Hopefully you caught any or all of that. We got a lot of action to talk about today. Drew, my boys are dead in the water. I think a lot of people's boys are dead in the water.
Just write them off. They're no good.
Ooh, had a good cry after that one.
Who are we talking about?
I don't know. Tampa Bay. What a week. What a great week for playoff football. Honestly, there were a lot of great games that stayed close all the way through. We got some of the best football of the year, I think, especially for wide receivers. They had an amazing week this week. Everybody seemed like they had a 100-yard receiver, or just about. We're going to go through all of that. The afternoon games are just now wrapping up, so we're glad you guys are here.
How's it going, Michael? Glad you're here. Hi, Kathy. Glad you're here as well.
Absolutely.
Jacob, good to see you, says, how about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? It's about time, right?
That's the score they should have been putting up, like all year long?
Yeah, I mean, they finally showed up. And I think part of it, too, is just after 3 weeks of embarrassment, they go in and they're like, oh, we need this one, number one. Number two, we're going up. This is the last team with a winning record we're going to play on the schedule. It's time to show that we deserve to be in the playoffs. This is a great win, especially when you consider the Eagles keeping pace and winning against the Redskins. They're going to have a matchup here. I think it's 2 weeks from now, but it might be next week. It's going to be incredibly important, and this win helps the Cowboys kind of go into that one still with the lead.
Frank, good to see you. Martavius, good to see you as well. He says, Falcons, baby.
They're finally playing like the team we thought they could be.
Yeah, just like, 13 weeks late.
I know. Well, great win, though. You got to take it where you can get it. Does this save Dan Quinn's job?
Yeah, I think it does. But I think he deserves another year anyways, regardless. Kathy says, how about them Chiefs? How about them? Whew, they look good, didn't they?
This might have been the only game from the early slate that wasn't in doubt like ever. Like, it was pretty much Chiefs from start to finish, right?
And it's, I'm kind of that weird fan. I'm glad to see them play in the snow. I love snow games.
I like snow games, too.
I'm glad it was the Chiefs getting to play in one in their in their own stadium. It was a good game. It was fun to watch. A little concerning, Kathy. I don't know how you feel. I'd like to see our offense put up more than 23 points. It kind of seems
but
like
it's snow and you're a fast offense. You throw a lot. That's
we threw a pick in the red zone.
Yeah.
We kind of did a couple 3-and-outs when we shouldn't have. It's discouraging.
I think snow can affect that. Again,
it is.
You want it to be sunny and 75 for this offense.
I just always want 37 plus points. Okay.
Okay, yeah, you're not.
I don't care what the.
You don't put 37 on the board. It wasn't a good week.
It's a Category 5 hurricane, and the game's not going, and I still expect
40
the Chiefs
points. 40 points.
Yeah, I still expect the Chiefs to put up more than 37. Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
All right, we'll hit a couple more of these comments. Will says, okay, I better not hear hatred towards Winston. He says, talk about the 454 yards and the 4 touchdowns. Again, one QB in NFL history to do that in back-to-back games, but yet he is garbage in your opinion. Yes, he is still garbage in our opinion, and meaningless ESPN stats like, oh, he's the third guy in NFL history to throw for 203 yards in one game and 4 touchdowns and rush for this many. Did it help them get the win today? Yeah. Is that the best praise you're going to get from me out of Jameis Winston? Probably. This is a 3-win team, Will. I guess you just... my advice to you, man, I understand you're hyped for your guy. You're the guy who wants Winston to hang around. So this is kind of ammo in the clip for that. I'll give you that. But still, it's a 3-win team. You want to see that level of performance. More importantly, I think you should ask yourself why late in the game they let the Lions come within 1 score of them when they had a comfortable lead for the big chunk of it. Now, they turned it on.
Yeah.
But why did this game get close afterward when you're talking about a third-string quarterback in there?
I don't even know. Okay, so, Will, we can talk about this every show, man. I was the biggest Winston doubter that you could have ever run across because I thought the Bucs blew it by taking him in the number 1 pick. I told Jake when it happened, I said, you got the better quarterback. Now, I'll admit, I might have been wrong. But what I won't admit is that Winston isn't the reason why this team is winning. I think you got a better head coach and Bruce Arians, and I think you got a defensive coordinator in Todd Bowles where you're seeing your defense step up.
Good to see you, George.
And that stuff helps. But regardless how you put it, the 450 yards and 4 touchdowns literally mean nothing when the game's neck and neck and you throw a pick in the fourth quarter, you lose the game. But this time you're playing the Lions. That's not going to happen. Let's see what happens if you play like, the Saints or the 49ers or the Chiefs.
This is where you need that kind of performance, and this is not where you're seeing that kind of performance out of Jameis Winston.
It's great. Statistically, it's great, but it's never going to win you a Super Bowl, man. That's the whole point.
And the other thing I want to kind of counterpunch against, where you said you think he might be the better quarterback than Mariota now in hindsight, I think injuries have kind of derailed Mariota. Again, Mariota's taken his team to the playoffs. He's won a playoff game with them. We haven't seen that out of Jameis Winston. So, yeah, I get statistically, when you look at the numbers, you can say, well, obviously Jameis Winston's thrown for more yards, he's thrown more touchdowns. But I think there's more to the story than that. I think both of these quarterbacks have come up short, but I don't know that it's fair now that Mariota's been pretty seriously hurt in his career to say, oh, yeah, no, Jameis is the better guy. I don't know. Again, I think which career would you rather have at this point? You'd say Winston because he's healthier. Going into it, though, I don't know, man. Mariota, without that elbow injury, might have been the better quarterback out of the two. I don't know that I want to preface it and say he wasn't as good. And this is me sticking up for Marcus Mariota, okay?
You shouldn't do that.
I shouldn't
You're
do that.
in public.
I am a Tannehill guy, but still.
You're in public. You shouldn't do that, dude.
My fault.
Austin, good to see. He says the Seahawks, clinched a playoff berth and are the number 1 seed in the NFC.
For now. You got one more big game coming up against the 49ers, so we got to put a little asterisk next to that. But yes, it must be nice to be the number 1 team, even if it's short-lived. But again, now it runs through Seattle. They have to go to Seattle to play. The 49ers have to go to Seattle to play them in this next upcoming matchup. That's exactly what you want. This is everything you wanted. The Falcons absolutely did the Seahawks a favor today.
Yeah, no doubt. Scott, good to see you. He says Julio coming up big for him. It's about time. It's about time. That's all I got to say. About time fantasy. I never draft him, but it's about time.
Yep, I threw out this year on Julio, too. He waited till I was out of the playoffs. Thanks, Julio.
Will says, oh, my God, you're all bogus.
All right, man. I hope they re-sign him. That's all I can say. I hope they re-sign him so we can keep talking about this year in and year out.
I'll even say it. I hope he wins the Super Bowl so you can sit there and shove into our face how wrong we were. But until that happens, man, I think we're right and you're wrong.
James says Texans and Cowboys win. What a day. I know that both of them, well, one game was closer than the other, but both of them incredibly important wins for both those franchises. If you're in Texas right now, it's a pretty good day. Pretty good day for you. I think a little bit harder for us up here in Nashville, but I promise we'll get to that later. Martavis says Atlanta should be a Super Bowl contender next season. He says they have too much talent not to be. I don't know that I want to say Super Bowl contender. They need to refresh the defense. They still have some good receiving weapons. Maybe Devontae Freeman can rediscover his form. They got to get an offensive line fix, though. They got to figure things out up front. If they do that, maybe the offense comes back together. All I can say is you're running out of time with Matt Ryan. It's got to happen soon.
Hey, he scrambled for a couple yards this game. That was the first in a while.
Yeah, I'm just saying you can't let him keep getting hit.
He actually ran the ball. I was like, what?
He said, I want to win. We're keeping Dan Quinn around. Jacob says, Jake, who do we pick between the Steelers and the Bills game?
I'm
he didn't ask you. He didn't ask you. Jacob, I am going to take the Bills. It's a little bit of a spoiler alert. Usually we do this at the end of the show, but since it's on Sunday night, I don't mind revealing it right now. I think the Bills are the better team. I think they play similar football. Both defenses are great. It's going to come down to who's going to make fewer mistakes. I'm hoping that it's Buffalo, not only for my team, but because I want to see the Patriots get run down in their division for the first time since I've been alive.
Will says the Bucks will win next week and you all will still be hating. That's fine. Drink all the haterade. Well, as long as it's purple drink, I'll keep.
But are they going to the playoffs when they win next week? I hope they win next week. They got Houston.
As long as it's made from the tears of Bucks fans, I will drink it.
Exactly. I hope they win. They play Houston next week. That would help the Titans out immensely because then it's a win and good end game if they can find a way to beat the Saints. I know. If you look at them today, they might not beat the Saints, but who knows? This is still too little too late. Just like we were talking about with Atlanta. You're okay with us saying too little too late for Atlanta? It's too little too late for Tampa Bay, too. I know they got back to 500, but they're basically mathematically eliminated after today.
Well, James is already looking into his crystal ball, and he says the Bills win tonight.
I think James is right. I think so. I think all signs point towards Buffalo, even though it's a road game, and technically the Steelers are a 1-point favorite. I couldn't believe it when I read that.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
I know you get Connor back, but he's going to be sharing the ball. They've already said that Snell, the other gentleman, and Connor will be sharing. So he'll be a three-headed monster in the backfield. Yep. You don't got Juju going. I don't really know why.
You're just waiting on Duck Hodges to play poorly against a defense like this. That's all I can say. I think, again, Josh Allen's going to do more with his legs than we're going to see Duck Hodges be able to do. I think that's why they're the favorite number one. Yeah. The other thing I want to talk about here, I know we talked about John Harbaugh being coach of the year, but can we say it's Mike Tomlin now? Getting a team that's this beat up into a playoff race? I mean, when was the last time we saw that?
No, I mean he's definitely in the talk and the contention of it. I'll tell you one name that fell off this week.
Mike Vrabel? No, he wasn't in the talk. He shouldn't have been.
Why? He went to a backup quarterback in a sense, and he was 6-1.
Yeah, he went to a backup quarterback after his regular one stunk for 6 weeks, and he didn't realize that, hey, maybe we should give this guy the handoff first.
They would have won out, and they would have been 9-1 and in the playoffs and won their division. You might be talking about it.
The reason why it will never be Mike Vrabel is because some of his decisions have cost the Titans games. He has made bad coaching decisions, Jason Garrett style, made bad coaching decisions that have cost them games. You can't work against your team and be coach of the year. You have to be making the right decisions that put your team in positions to win. Well, he's done the opposite.
I just want to let you know through the media that his name was mentioned in it. Not that he would have won.
And I just want to let you know that those people are dumb, and they shouldn't be.
Well, they're the ones that are voting for it. So
and they're dumb. He'll never be coach of the year in my heart, and he's my coach. So again, I don't think Vrabel should have been in that conversation, but that's okay. I get the hype because Tannehill had a good 6 weeks.
James is looking further into his crystal ball, and he says the Texans beat the Bucs next week as well. He's all about the Texans, huh? Just going in, he's saying they're gonna beat the Bucs. That's good. To be honest with you, and Will's gonna like this. The Bucs are not an easy win.
We've also seen the Texans get up for divisional games. I mean, they did it after they got blown out by the Ravens. They got up for the Colts right afterward. They got up for the Titans. In this one, after getting blown out by Denver, who knows? Maybe they go into that one with the gloves down too. Yeah. Especially having beat Tennessee, they got to feel pretty good about their chances when you look at how tough the rest of the Titans' schedule is. I think Houston, that's definitely an upset alert. That's definitely a trap game for them.
Jacob says he has to agree that Buffalo will win this, and at least by 10 points.
And you know Sean's in on the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm. Steve says, how about Steve McDermott? He should be in the conversation. He is
quietly one of those guys that we're not talking about. I absolutely agree with you. But I think when you look at Tomlin being on a third string and you're still in the playoffs at this point, I mean, you lost Big Ben, you lost Antonio Brown, you lost Le'Veon Bell, and you're still in the playoffs. He hasn't had a losing season in what's it been, like 10 or 11 in Pittsburgh. I think it's time we give it to Mike Tomlin. Everyone else, there have been a couple coaches this year that have been great. I think John Harbaugh has been fantastic, but I think when you're talking about a third-string quarterback, who can do it with a third-string quarterback like this? And you're rotating them. I mean, Mason Rudolph's coming in sometimes.
The defense is playing better. I mean, it's really not their offense that's winning games.
But they're doing enough to win.
I still think it's, even with the loss to 49ers, it's Kyle Shanahan and John Harbaugh's award to lose or win. In my opinion, those are the two that literally have taken their team that has not done well. I know the Ravens went to the playoffs last year, but no one thought that this was going to be the Ravens. I mean, not only do you have the MVP of the league there, your defense, who's lost everybody, is playing well as well. So it's a little, I don't know, man. I see it. I know what you're talking about with Tomlin, but I don't know, man. I just don't know if he can win it.
And James says the Texans have a better offense than the Buccaneers. I don't know if that's true. I think both these teams are actually in a similar place right now. Both of them are struggling against the pass. The Texans played a little bit better today, but again, things get funky in division all the time. You still let A.J. Brown kind of run all over them, or catch the ball all over them, I should say. Tampa Bay's in the same spot where they've got a good front seven, kind of like Houston does. They're good at stopping the run.
Texans can run the ball better.
The difference, though, is the Buccaneers are a much better pass rushing team. Since J.J. Watt's been out, the Texans' pass rush is almost dried up. They have not been very good getting after the passer. And both teams are going to be able to throw. Yeah, so maybe Carlos Hyde is the X factor again. Spoiler alert when we talk about that game. But maybe Carlos Hyde's the X factor here. I just don't see it against this defense. I think they're very good against the run. We'll see what happens.
Steve says McDermott is about to get the Bills to the playoffs for the second time in 3 years after missing the playoffs for 18 straight. That's got to count for something. Yeah, it definitely does, man. There's no doubt about it. Now, they don't really care about past stuff per se when they're voting for Coach of the Year.
Even though I did mention the Tomlin thing, so that's fair to say too, Steve. I brought up some of the stuff in the past too, but
yeah, I mean, they don't really vote on that. I mean, if it happened just last year, and like you're talking about like an 0-16 team that turned around and was like 12-4, okay, then they talk about the past because it was just the recent past, but they don't really talk about missing it for 18 seasons in a row.
If McDermott's going to win it, he's going to have to beat the Patriots. I think it's that simple. You can't be Coach of the Year if you can't be the top team in your division, I think. I don't think they're going to give him Coach of the Year if the Patriots wind up finishing first in the division again. They lose twice to the Patriots, and you go in as a wild card team. If they can beat the Patriots,
I mean, that definitely
he'll be
helps.
in that conversation.
That definitely helps, yeah, no doubt.
Let's move on to the games, though, if you're ready.
Yeah,
Let's start talking about the first one of the week, the Patriots and the Bengals, steeped in controversy. This is one of those that, at halftime, I was like, oh my God, this is why they were recording the Bengals. They're so worried about him. And then after halftime, I was like, ooh, never mind. Andy Dalton's back.
Well,
4 interceptions in the second half.
They finally got a chance to watch all that film on him, and they're like, okay, now we know what they're playing.
My goodness.
It was rough. It was a good first half. You saw a Bengals team that maybe could have been, and then you saw adjustments from Belichick and that offense with Josh McDaniels, and you saw just a truck running over another team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think Andy Dalton, I don't want to say he had a terrible half, but it was when you throw 4 interceptions in a half, your name's either Jameis Winston or you're having a terrible half. I think Andy Dalton really kind of hurt his free agency prospects here. Yes, people are going to say, oh, it's the Patriots, everything else, but 4 interceptions and a half. If you're trying to convince a team that I need to be your guy next year and you don't need to draft somebody high or you need to give me the chance to be your bridge, this is not the kind of performance you want to have. I think more than anything, this just solidifies that Cincinnati is now Joe Burrow's already there. Sign him up. There's like a 3% chance that they wind up losing the first overall pick. We haven't even got close to the draft. The season's not over, but Joe Burrow is already wearing the Bengal stripes.
Did they hand his Heisman Trophy to him with Bengal stripes on?
Yeah. It says Bengals quarterback. Now he's going to be going from a tiger to a Bengal. He doesn't have to turn the stripes in at all.
I don't want to ignore James's comment. He says, who's winning the divisions?
Right now, the Patriots are ahead of the Bills, or maybe he's asking who's going to win them. I think the Patriots hold out. I hate it for Buffalo fans. I hope that's not the case, but I think they'll find a way to do it. Ravens look like a runaway. Houston almost solidified the division today. Out west, you got Kansas City running away. In the NFC, it's a toss-up between the Seahawks and 49ers. We're going to get another great matchup. 49ers were banged up. I think I'd bet on them. Packers are pretty much closed the deal today. I know they still have the Vikings that can kind of contend with them, but I don't think it happens. Saints running away with the South. East, Cowboys look good. I think the Eagles really struggled against the Redskins. It's got to be Cowboys right now unless something changes. They do still play each other, so that's important, but
yeah, I'd
say those are the 8 teams most likely to win their divisions. Good to see you, Rob.
We talked about the Bengals. Let's talk about the Patriots. Does the explosion of offense get you excited? Because, I mean, that's the knock about this team right now is, yeah, the defense is playing well, but that offense is really struggling. But they've struggled. And I get it. It's the Bengals. But is this the kind of jump that, Patriot fans want to see with their offense, to see it getting a little bit better?
They didn't have a 100-yard rusher. Tom Brady threw for 128 yards. Yes, they put points on the board, but a lot of it was because of field position. This is about the defense winning this game. Yeah. And Tom Brady came out and said, we need defense and special teams to win these days. But no, 37 points is not to say, if Tom Brady had 300 yards and there was 37 points on the board, I'd say, yeah, maybe the Patriots have a little bit of something on offense. But They put up 128 against one of the weakest defenses in the game.
Yeah.
128 yards through the air against one of the worst defenses in the game.
I mean, the Bengals do have a good pass rush.
It's time to be concerned in New England because you're not going to get to play the Bengals and you're not going to get to play the Jets and the Dolphins when you go to the playoffs. Every week is going to be a tough matchup.
They get the Bills and the Dolphins.
Well, I don't think the Dolphins are making the playoffs. But
No. I'm just saying the next 2 weeks they get the Bills and they get the Dolphins.
I'm not talking about the immediate end of the season. I'm saying they need to be worried about when they go into the playoffs what this is going to look like. Because not everyone's going to be throwing 4 interceptions and a half.
Besides the Bills, I mean, just talk about an easy schedule. Well, anyways, move on. Steve says the Bills will win the East. And Scott says that Andy Dalton is who we thought he was.
And maybe I'm overreacting. Again, their offense isn't very good right now. Their offensive line is terrible. Joe Mixon hasn't been great this year. They have
He played well this game.
They have a bunch of wide receivers that you're like, could definitely see him in free agency this year. So
and no great tight end.
Yeah, exactly.
Eifert's a joke.
Maybe we're being a little too hard on Andy Dalton, but maybe I don't want to see 4 interceptions for the guy who's going to be the next Broncos quarterback.
And to be honest with you, if you talk to a bunch of Bengal fans, they don't blame Andy Dalton for a lot of this scenario. They still believe in Andy Dalton.
Yeah, and the key to the Bengals is, are they ever going to be able to build a team around Joe Burrow, or are we just sentencing this man to death before he gets to the NFL?
Oh, dude, they were good late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We'll move on to our next game. Let's talk about the Buccaneers going up against the Lions again.
They were good with Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
And Andy Dalton went to 5 straight playoffs. I mean,
yeah, they've had their moments.
It's not like the
Browns.
Are we
getting there again?
It's not like the Browns where it's been
just perennial
Tim
disgrace.
Couch I think it was the last quarterback to bring in the
Derek
playoffs.
Anderson. Derek Anderson did it in 2004. They won 9 games, went to the playoffs. I remember that.
15 years ago, dude.
Now I think they have the longest drought since Buffalo broke theirs. It's been a minute for Cleveland. Let's talk about the Buccaneers, though. Stepped on the gas, got way out in front of the Lions. stepped off the gas, let the Lions catch back up, and then stepped on the gas and blew them out. So, again, not sure what to make of this game, other than the fact that we talked about it before. You were telling me that the tie does not matter to these teams. It matters now because there are a lot of 3-win teams out there in the NFL that are going to have better draft picks than the Lions do because of this tie. Incredibly important, although not helping you this time.
Well, what are the Lions doing? What are they doing with that top pick? What is the glaring hole of this team where they have to go for that position? Or do they not have one? Do you take the best player available?
This is just quit. Like, I think this team quit when they traded Diggs away. Quandre Diggs, the safety.
I'm talking about the are you
talking about the Lions? What do they do to fix the team? Or did you say Buccaneers?
No, I'm talking about the draft pick that the Lions are going to have because you were talking about it.
Oh, where do you go there?
Where do you go?
Cornerback would be great if you get the kid from Ohio State. I'm drawing a blank on what his name is now. He's the best in the class by far. He's like a top 5 prospect. He would be amazing. He's going to be the Marshawn Lattimore, I think, of this year. You could go another direction, too, and go get a linebacker, but I don't know if there's a linebacker that's that good. You can go get a tackle for Matt Stafford. You can go a lot of directions. There's going to be a lot of good picks still on the board for them.
It's almost just who is the best player available.
For them, yeah, for sure. Yeah. They're hoping Chase Young falls.
That was an option, but you weren't listening.
Absolutely. It's going to be best player. It's got to be. When your roster looks like this, has to be best player. A couple more of these comments, and we'll go back to this here real quick. Chad says, Red Kingdom. I think he's going Chiefs there. Or is that Chiefs, or is that might be Redskins?
Well, the Kingdom, Chiefs Kingdom, I never heard it called the Red Kingdom, but hey, if it is, awesome, Chad. Thank you.
Absolutely. Rob says Brady needs to retire. He absolutely looks rough. I can't argue with that. Also, James says, will Prescott get an extension, and for how long? He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL after this season. It's going to happen. Mark my words. Jerry Jones is going to do it. They're going to look at this. How many chances has he given Jason Garrett? And to Dak Prescott's credit, he has been pretty good in a lot of games this year. It's been against bad opponents, but he's been pretty good in a lot of these games. They are not letting Dak Prescott go, and to keep him around, he already said no to that $33 million contract they offered him. They're going to pay him $38. They're going to pay him $40. He's going to break the record, and I think it's going to be for a 5 or 6 year deal.
Yeah. I how long? It will be for sure longer than 5 years. Will he get an extension? Yes. As far as money, I'm gonna stay quiet on it. It wouldn't surprise me that Jerry Jones does that, but he's not worth it. He's just not. I mean, it's no offense to Cowboys fan. He's just not worth it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He's not a Russell Wilson.
But it's so tough. And it's easier when you're the owner, but it's so tough to move away from the quarterback you already have because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Because what happens if the next guy sucks? And everyone's going to be like, oh, we could have had Dak Prescott. It's all your fault. It's easier when you're Jerry Jones. That's really tough as a GM to make that call.
Chad says, let's talk about without Lamar Jackson's legs, that he would be just an average quarterback.
I think he would be a far below average quarterback. I think the legs are what make defenses scramble so much. It's part of the reason why these guys are as open as they are.
I think you guys are crazy. He leads the league in passing touchdowns.
To wide open receiver, yeah.
So?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If he moved like Tom Brady did, is he that good of a passer? No.
He didn't have to.
Well, I think he does. I think he has to move as he does, and that's what scrambles defenses.
What if he has to move like Tom Brady? He doesn't have to move like Tom Brady. He's faster than Tom Brady.
Well, that's what he's saying. Without his legs, would he be more than an average quarterback?
They're not going to wheel him out there with a wheelchair. The guy's got his legs.
Well, that's what he's asking you. Is it the legs that make the man?
That's
the quarterback. Is that what's making the success?
That's like sitting there saying
if he couldn't throw, he wouldn't be a quarterback.
Without Drew Brees' mind, is Drew Brees still Drew Brees? No. This is what makes Lamar Jackson as good as he is the fact that he's fast. But you cannot sit there and say that he does not throw the ball well. He leads the league in passing touchdowns. Regardless if it's scheme, regardless if it's a wide open receiver, the guy is leading the league in passing touchdowns. The number one stat that you want your quarterback to lead in, he is leading in it.
Martavis says Chase Young is going back to Ohio State for his senior year. I haven't heard that. If he does, I think a lot of it depends on where they finish, too. If they win the national championship and you're going to be a top 3 pick, what do you have left to prove? And I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, this is a 2-horse race. I know Clemson's the underdog and we're all forgetting about them, but I don't think that team's good enough to beat Ohio State. I think it's going to be LSU versus Ohio State, and both of those teams, I think it's going to be a slugfest. Both of those teams are going to be great. Yeah. These are the one and the two teams. This is the best matchup you're going to get out of college football. If Ohio State wins it, why are you going back to college? I mean, what do you have left to prove? You're going to be a national champion. You're going to be leaving on a high note. You're going to go and be a top 2, top 3 draft pick. You're going to be arguably the best non-quarterback coming out in this draft and the most important non-quarterback in this draft. It's just the only reason I'd stay is because I don't want to go play for Miami or New York or whatever, if that's the case. But you're going to be up there again. It's going to be the bad teams drafting you again next year. So I don't know. Again, I haven't heard that about Chase Young, but if it is true, that would be a huge shock to this draft.
It would. It would. James says the Ravens is the team to beat in the AFC.
And he's right.
Yeah, 100%.
Right now. Yeah, totally agree. Let's go back to the Buccaneers for just a second, and we'll move on and talk about Packers and Bears. The Buccaneers. Drew, what do we make of this team? They're back to 500. What do we make of them? Is this just a building year? Because right now, I think Bruce Arians is doing a good job with a bad roster. I think Todd Bowles, as their defensive coordinator, is doing a good job with a bad roster. I think if you give them a year worth of quality building where they bring in some good secondary players, they bring in an offensive lineman or two that can do better than the guys they already have, we might, even with Jameis Winston, we might see a playoff caliber team in Tampa Bay. But from everything I've seen from this team, is that going to happen? No, I don't know. I don't trust them to make the right choices.
I mean, don't get me wrong when I say this. The defense needs a lot of pieces put to it. There's definitely holes on that defensive side of the ball, but this team needs to learn how to run the ball. They need to learn how to take time off the clock. They need to learn how to not make Winston throw the ball 50 times. Mm-hmm. Because when he throws it 50 times, he turns the ball over 3 times in crucial moments. So that is the number one thing I believe that they should be looking at into this draft is either if they believe in their running backs, draft offensive line, which they need to do anyways because I agree with Will, their offensive line is terrible. Or you go and say, hey, I don't believe in this in my running backs. I need to go out there and look for probably the top-end running back. And luckily for them, running backs normally don't go in the first round, so you could probably wait till your second or third pick to take one. But I think it's definitely a need. If you brought a running game into this team and succeeded at it with that explosive passing offense, but they don't have to use it every time, this team could be good.
Absolutely.
Because one thing I think we have to admit is the run defensive game is great. Mm-hmm. The secondary has played well at times, but not completely. So
short spurts, yeah.
So there's pieces that need to be changed out and fixed, but this team could be good. Could be.
They need an offensive line. If you're going to run the ball, you need an offensive line. I'm not even pinning it on the running backs. Their offensive line right now is atrocious, and it's part of the reason Winston throws as many picks as he does because he's under pressure more often than he needs to be. I'm with you. If they could put together a good group of 5 guys up front, they could do it, but they paid all these guys a lot of money. They're going to be returning. I just don't see it. They might draft a guy. They might, especially if one of these top 3 tackles fall to him, like the guy from Iowa, or maybe one of these kids from Alabama, because there's 2 pretty good tackles from Alabama too that are coming out. If one of those guys fall to them, we're going to be talking about Tampa Bay starting the rebuild in the offensive line. That to me is going to be the fix. You can't keep playing like this and expect to be a playoff team. A couple more of these comments and we'll move on. Scott says, "Would you gamble on another small sample size Ohio State quarterback? Isn't that what Joe Burrow is?" He was an Ohio State guy, transferred when he couldn't win the job from Dwayne Haskins.
Right.
Played kind of a pedestrian year at LSU last year. He wasn't great. He was okay. This year he looks like he's the best quarterback in college football, and it's not even close. Isn't that kind of the small sample size we're talking about? Yeah, you have to gamble on him. You got to gamble that you're getting the right guy. Yeah. I know that wasn't your point, Scott. You're saying, is it Justin Fields? But Justin Fields isn't going to be in this draft. I think when we look at Joe Burrow, yeah, you have to take that pick. If you're at number 1, you have to roll the dice, and if it doesn't work out, you'll be up towards the top again, and you'll get to swing the bat again. I don't think it's wrong to improve at quarterback.
He's beat the average of points difference in a game is by far of what he did this year by 8. It's 18 points was the average of the difference of the games that he won, and that beat it by almost double.
Yeah.
No one's even close to beating that.
And if you look at all the extra level stats, he's making all those big time throws at a higher rate than everyone, which means he's throwing it downfield and putting it where it needs to be. Yeah, he's been incredibly accurate. He's been great. But do you believe this is just a 1-year thing? We've seen guys have one great year in college. Look at Jake Fromm.
I hate to
look at Jake Locker. Look at all those guys named Jake.
I hate to admit it, but I have my concerns. I have my concerns with them.
But you got to swing it back, right?
Yeah,
you're Cincinnati.
Yeah. You take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't look back.
No, you don't look back. You don't worry about that. You take them and then you move forward on it. George wants to know who is the team to beat in the NFC.
I still think it's 49ers. I think the Saints, again, with the way they played when they matched up against each other, neck and neck, that could absolutely go another direction. But that was in New Orleans, if I remember right. I think that game kind of showed me that the 49ers are still the team to beat. The Seahawks, they played without Kittle, they played without Emmanuel Sanders, they played without Robbie Gould. Any one of those three guys play, they beat the Seahawks. I still think it's the 49ers. Today was just a blip on the radar. All and not to take anything away from the Falcons. Today was just a blip on the radar.
Hit Sean's comment. He goes, it's the game tonight, right now. Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers starts right now. Yes, it does, man. And we're glad that you're sticking with us and watching our show.
Absolutely. Good luck to the Bills. Again, it helps my team out a lot if the Bills win this one. But the Steelers will basically clinch a playoff spot if they win this one. Both teams have a lot to play for. Let's talk about the Bears and Packers.
Yeah, how the Bears let me down.
They did, and you took that one from me. I was like, I think this is a coin toss. I'm just going to disagree with wherever you go.
Thanks, man.
Anytime. No, thank you. Thank you. You're the one who called it. You could have been
like, hey, don't talk. Let me pick first.
I was like, you go ahead. I was even going to, and you interrupted me to say you needed to take the Bears. You, dove out in front of the microphone.
No, I said, I think this is the first game we're going to disagree with, and then I said the Bears, and you're like, well, we weren't, but now we are.
Yeah, exactly. What do you take about Mitch Trubisky's 350 yards to the air? 1 touchdown, 2 picks, but still move the ball.
The Packers are a better team.
I think it's gaudy stats. Again, it's gaudy stats. When you talk about them having to score late to even bring this thing close, and I know you could say they came really close to scoring that hook and ladder at the end, and then maybe they could have hit a 2-point conversion to tie the game, and then maybe they win, and if. But the Bears had 3 points almost all the way through this game. 3 points.
Yeah. Got away from the run game, started throwing the ball, got concerned.
Got into trouble.
And the Packers are a better team, plain and simple.
I agree. Even though Aaron Rodgers didn't have that amazing of a day, 200 yards to the air, only 1 touchdown.
He didn't need
to. No, he definitely didn't. Most of that was Devontae Adams. I still think the Packers need more wide receiving weapons.
Yes.
That's why I think they're going to come up short in the playoffs to teams like the Saints and teams like the 49ers. I think they're not quite talented enough on the offensive side of the ball to beat them. But Aaron Jones put 2 touchdowns on the board. The yards weren't there, but he scored twice.
They were moving the ball enough. They're getting short field advantage. I mean, things like that. Special teams played well. I mean, that's kind of what won the game. But again, the Packers are a better team. Let's move forward. Let's move to the Texans versus the Titans.
Ooh, tough one. Had to put a sad song on after this one, Drew. It was a good game, though. I enjoyed it all the way through. I was standing there, looking out the window, hand in the glass. Had a good sob afterward, but now I'm okay. Titans really, really needed this win. Didn't come away with it. The Texans were a very good team. I think the Titans played really well. It came down to a couple just plays that were the difference. I think the big one was Anthony Ferkser basically catching a ball, even though they ruled it an interception, right on the goal line, popped out. The Texans managed to get it and ran a 90-yard return back. Without that, if Titans score first, this game might go a different direction, but they made just one too many mistakes against a team that's on that level just below elite, kind of like the Titans are, and I think that's why the Titans lost this one.
So I'm going to just kind of go on a different...
Michael said he cried too. I know it's tough, man. It's tough. And I know you're a 49ers fan, so at least you get to beat the Seahawks and get back into first.
Completely different thing about this, and it's just about your team, and I guess I'll wait until you come back. It's how excited are you to see a wide receiver prospect start shining in your baby blue? Don't say two-tone blue because it's baby blue. How excited are you about A.J. Brown? Because this is what I've always been knocking about the Tennessee Titans is it doesn't matter if Mariota was good. He has no one to throw the ball to except Delaney Walker. You are actually seeing a development of a number 1 wide receiver grow up through Nashville. How excited are you about that?
Well, I'm actually going to totally disagree with you here. I think if you look at, and I know, shocker for this show, but I'm going to totally disagree with you. What have I told you forever? The Titans have weapons. Did you see Jonnu Smith today?
Yeah. And I'm going to sit there and tell you you're crazy.
Jonnu Smith had over 100 yards receiving. He looked like a stud. And yes, 60 or 70 of it came on a big play, but so did A.J. Brown. He had a big play in there as well. I like A.J. Brown's kind of progression. I think with Marcus Mariota, he looked like trash. In fact, we saw him for 6 games with Marcus Mariota and didn't really stand out that much. I think he had one big play with Mariota.
I think you should be excited.
I think when you look at what Ferkser's done, even though he had the bad fumble today, whatever. Bad plays happen.
Yeah.
I'm not the Titans. I don't hold it against him for too long. You look at Jonnu Smith and the way he's kind of he's progressed with Ryan Tannehill. Even Corey Davis catching the ball at a higher rate. And I know you're not a big fan of Corey Davis, but he is. No, he had 3 or 4 catches today in clutch moments that were important. The Titans have had weapons. They just needed a guy to distribute it, and they're making a perennially average quarterback look like a great player because they have those weapons.
And you're seeing a development of a number one wide receiver come into your team.
Well, yeah, but again, when your quarterback is this bad, it's hard for anyone to succeed. And again, we saw A.J. Brown with Marcus Mariota, and you could say it's the first 6 weeks.
That's why I laughed about Corey Brown. It's not that I think that he's terrible. It's just, he could go, throw him somewhere else, he'll probably do fine. He played with Mariota for his whole career until finally now. So the problem is you actually have a legitimate number one wide receiver being developed in your team. This is a huge piece the Titans have been missing.
And I am excited.
And you should be excited.
I definitely am. And I'm not trying to take it away from A.J. Brown, but my point is the Titans have had weapons. And I've been saying that. I'm like, we don't have the guy to distribute. Now you do. And this game didn't go their way. It just makes the Mariota's first 6 games that he started, when you look at the way Ryan Tannehill played in the preseason and in training camp beforehand, every week that goes by, it makes those first 6 weeks where the Titans went 2-4 look that much more important, because odds are those games were lost by a couple points each and every week. Tannehill gets 2 or 3 of those wins. We're not sweating it. Now we're sweating it, and we're probably going to go 9-7 and miss the playoffs again.
Yeah,
Good win by Houston.
It's all in the past now. Nothing you can do about it.
Let me talk about Houston for a second. Great win by them. Their secondary has been atrocious for the past few weeks. Their running defense has been very, very bad for the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, giving up like 166 yards since week 10. They didn't look like it today. They got up for this kind of game, and I give them all the credit in the world. One team, when they needed one play and made it happen, it was there. Deshaun Watson wasn't overly impressive today, but he did enough to get things done. I would like to see more against this banged-up Titans secondary that did not look particularly good. I would have liked to see him shine a little bit more than he did, but he still had a decent game. I think he played pretty well. The 2 picks in the red zone were kind of an issue, even though one was on the 21-yard line, so it doesn't count as a red zone pick. But the Texans look like the all-around better team. I think the X factor was Carlos Hyde.
I'd like to see the run game finally start going over there.
Exactly. It was the kind of team win they needed, as opposed to a lot of other weeks where you're like, it's all on Deshaun Watson.
Well, I'm a ghost again. Sharif says, good to see you, man. Jake, how much do you think Tannehill should make next year?
I would love to see Tannehill make anywhere between $17 and $21 million for the Titans. That being said, they'll give him 25.
Scott says, how long does the Titans stick with Tannehill, and do they do a long-term
They're going to want a 3-year deal with him that has an escapable contract for the 3rd year. He's going to want a 5-year deal that guarantees more of that money all the way through to the end. I think they're going to settle in the middle. I think Tannehill is going to be their guy he's like 31 right now. So, again, even a 4 or 5-year deal, him coming off at 36, it's not that big of a deal anymore. As long as we protect him, that's what it's going to be about. Hopefully he takes a team-friendly deal where he's going to make somewhere around $20 to $25 million a year, and that's going to allow the Titans to kind of rebuild this offensive line and get enough talent around him to help him succeed. And I think he's a smart enough guy to know that. It's not going to be a mega deal. I know he's had a great 6-7 weeks. I don't think it's a mega deal.
All right, let's go to the next game. The Denver Broncos went on the road to play Kansas City in a snowy field. Man, it was a good game. I enjoyed watching it. I think Drew Lock it has a lot of growing pains, but I think he could do well in Denver. I'm not super stoked about him thinking that he's the next franchise quarterback for him. I see positive things about it. Dan Phelps drove me nuts listening to him talk about how his family is...
Oh, you got Dan Phelps today.
Yeah, oh gosh, he's absolutely terrible.
He's the worst CBS...
About how...
Titans get him like half of the weeks every year.
About how he grew up as a Chiefs fan, and he's gone to Chiefs games so countless, and he wanted to be a Chief, and now he's a Denver Bronco, and it's a tough game for him to be because he always thought as a kid he'd be a Chief, and blah, blah, blah. No.
Those allegiances change pretty quick as soon as they give you the draft pick.
As soon as they give you the $1 million paycheck, you're like, you know what? I was always a Broncos
Chiefs
fan.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I don't... Maybe I'm a little less optimistic about Drew Lock than you. Under 50% completion against the Chiefs. That should have been better.
I saw positive things out of him, man.
Yeah.
It was a tough game.
I'm with you. It still is. In division, in the snow, underperforming offense.
Besides the first quarter. Man, that ball was slick.
And we're with you, Scott. He says snowy football games are always fun to watch, and especially against Kansas City. This is the kind of matchup you want to have when you're a running team like Denver. I'm a little disappointed in the Broncos for not putting up a little bit more of a fight here. And you could say it's because the Chiefs are as good as they are. I'm not saying the Chiefs didn't play well, but I'm saying I would like to see more out of the team that's been playing better towards the back half of the season like the Broncos have been. I mean, this team almost beat the Vikings. This team blew out the Texans a week ago.
Sharif, what's that supposed to be? He says, of course, Drew liked the Chiefs and Broncos game. Of course, Sharif liked the Ravens game. What's that supposed to mean, man? Of course I liked it. It was a great game.
Sharif also...
And not even that. bad. It was in the snow, which like Scott says, it makes it better.
Sharif also wants to know, should the Titans draft a quarterback next year? I don't think it's ever wrong to draft a quarterback ever. But they shouldn't draft a first-round quarterback. They're not gonna be in a position to trade up and get somebody. We're not looking to give up the first 3 offensive or first-round picks for this team to go and trade up and get someone like Tua Tagovailoa. I don't see that happening. I think that if the Titans are going to draft a quarterback, it's going to be a 3rd or a 4th-round pick. But I think they're going to take the safe route. They're going to go sign a journeyman backup, and it's going to be Ryan Tannehill's show for at least next year, probably the year after that. The Titans aren't aggressive enough to go out and draft another 2nd or 3rd round quarterback and say, hey, Ryan, don't worry about it. You're the starter, but just in case, because you've got that injury history.
Shreve says he wants to know, which running back am I comfortable with going in the playoffs for the Chiefs? To be honest, just running back by committee. Running back by committee.
Throw the ball and just hand it to one of them.
I like Damian Williams. I think he's the all-around better running back, but right now he can't stay healthy, so he's not good at all. His rib injury is obviously severe. He's been out for, 3 weeks now? I guess this would have been week 3 since he hurt himself. I don't know, man. Damian, majority of them. McCoy, 3rd down. Thompson, gadget plays. Where just as someone gets hurt. I mean, that's honestly about it. I don't really have a favorite towards one of them. Thompson looked good at times. McCoy can't hold on to the ball, but he's your savvy veteran that should do well. But I'm not excited about either of them.
I think this game's important for this reason. The Chiefs winning here helps them keep pace with the Texans. I think the most important thing between these two teams is who's going to get to play the 6th seed, because right now it's looking like the Steelers are going to find their way in, and to me that looks like a much better matchup than the Bills. I would rather play the Steelers far and away before I want to play Josh Allen and the Bills, especially if I'm Kansas City. I don't want to play that kind of defense against a running quarterback. I want to play Duck Hodges, that is going to be a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback going into the playoffs in a Kansas City type environment. That's who I want to play. So it's important that Kansas City won this one. I think it's going to be important going forward. They keep their pedal on the gas, or they keep their foot on the pedal. Same thing with Houston. You need this 3rd seed, because playing Buffalo, even at home, is a much harder out, I think, in the first round. Especially because even when you win that game, they're going to smash on you. They're going to be playing tough football. They're going to be running up the gut. Then you're going to have to go and play a team like the Ravens or a team like the Patriots after that. That's not what you want.
I mean, it's playoff football. None of the teams that you want, unless they...
Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pittsburgh fans. But yeah, I would rather play Pittsburgh than anyone else on this slate.
My last thing about this game is about Kansas City, and it's about the lack of offense late into the game. We saw it last week. We saw it this week. At half, it seems like the adjustment is happening on the other side of the ball. The other team is adjusting to what the Chiefs are trying to do offensively. Yes, Kelsey went nuts, and he went over and...
Only 11 catches. Only 142 yards.
And he did great, looked good, but problem is we're not hitting the end zone. Mahomes threw a pick in the red zone late. That's not what you want to see. There's a lot of 3 and outs. I talked about this. I get that Denver has a somewhat decent defense, but you got to put up more than 23 points. And everyone's going, well, it's the weather. Oh, last week it was the weather. This week it was the weather. What's going to happen up in northeastern part of the United States where they're going to have to go play anyways? There's going to be weather in January. So if you can't do it now, I could get concerned about doing it then.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. We'll move on. We'll talk about our next game here. Sharif says the Bills will beat the Patriots next week. I
hope so.
Every time I think it could happen, it just doesn't. Same thing with the Patriots. I went into halftime. I was like, is this the week that Cincinnati is going to pull out a win against the Patriots? Well, it didn't happen.
They lose, and the Chiefs win every game. They go into a bye.
Yeah, because they beat the Patriots straight up.
Yep.
I agree. It's going to be important. And that's another thing I didn't talk about. This win is still important, even though it's not the sexy slate where they're beating the Broncos. It still matters because you're still racing Houston. You're still racing the Patriots. This team is still playing for seeding, and I like to see that they're still winning games comfortably against teams you should be beating comfortably.
I mean, my negative stuff is just what the future holds, not this game. They look good, but what if the Broncos would have scored points? Could you have done more than 23? That's the question.
Fair enough. Dolphins-Giants. A game that we both picked the Giants to win, and Eli Manning. Maybe a swan song. Maybe we get Daniel Jones here before it's over. This might be the end of Eli Manning. I mean, he's 39 at this point. Have we seen him start his last game? I don't know. I will say this, though. Going out with 3 interceptions would be the total Eli move. I'm sorry, but when he threw the 3 picks, I was like, here we go. They're going to lose. They managed to put up enough points. Saquon Barkley managed to do enough against the Dolphins to kind of drag Eli to the finish line. And I know you said it beforehand. 20 of 28, 283 yards. The problem is 3 of those incompletions went to the other team. They didn't hit the turf. They hit teal jerseys and went the other way. So
just real quickly.
So now he's not in the Hall of Fame because he had a bad game.
So real quickly, I mean, is it not? Can some of this go to the lack of playing with some of these young guys? You got to remember Tate wasn't there. You got to remember what's the young,
and there's a reason Sterling Shepard was this Slayton.
Slayton. He I know he did well last week, but he didn't have a lot of chemistry with this guy.
Right.
I mean, some of this stuff plays into effect. You still don't have Ingram out there, which is arguably your best receiver, and he plays at a tight end position. This is a good game for Eli to go out on. It just sucks that he had 3 picks to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, I'm poking too much fun at it. He's still going to go to the Hall of Fame. When you win 2 Super Bowls, you go to the Hall of Fame. Those are the rules, right? We don't get to change the rules. You win 2 Super Bowls, you go to the Hall of Fame. It's just I think Eli I think Eli kind of overstayed his welcome a little bit, and he almost had that Jay Cutler kind of fizzle to the end of his career that I wasn't crazy about. Even guys like Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, they have games that you're like, oh,
yeah,
that was a spectacular performance. We haven't seen a lot of that out of Eli. That's all I can say. As for the Dolphins, I mean, good for you. Now, technically, you're back to being the 2nd overall pick. Maybe it's Chase Young when he comes out. And maybe Martavius is right, saying that Chase Young is going to return to Ohio State. If that's the case, you can go draft the best left tackle. You get your choice out of I think it's probably going to be the kid from Georgia, but you've got the Iowa left tackle. You get the left tackle from Alabama. They could even go and get the right tackle from Alabama. That's just an absolute hog and one of the best run blockers. I think it's going to be the kid from Georgia, but you're going to get your choice of anyone not named, or maybe they draft a quarterback. Maybe they get Tua, and they just say, we'll rest him. I don't know, but now the Dolphins are back in the 2nd overall pick, and that's important.
Shree says the Bills can run, and that they will rough up Brady, and he also says Eli should finish out the season.
The Bills, they already did that, and they lost the game. I mean, they just didn't make enough plays. I think just like their defense is going to rough up Tom Brady, Josh Allen's going to be under duress from the Bills' defense. If they make a couple mistakes, it goes Patriots. Again, they're just the team that, as bad as it gets, I can never pick against them. It's been ugly football all year long, and the Patriots are 10-3.
Shreve also says
11-3.
What Miami should do is draft a quarterback or keep Rosen and build. I think Rosen's already seen his last days.
Yeah. I think you have an option. This is not a 1-year rebuild, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I think you have a 1-year, or you have a 2-year rebuild here, so you have an option right now. Yes, you have a high pick right now. The question is, do you believe in Tua that much, or do you want to wait another year and just go and try to build the rest of this team? Because you can go get a great player like Chase Young that's going to help this defense. You can go and draft a tackle. They've got like 3 or 4 first-round picks after trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, after trading for the Texans. They have a ton of draft capital. Do you want to just build the team first and then get the quarterback and have him in a good environment where he's going to thrive? I think the good thing about drafting someone like Tua in that spot number 2 for the Dolphins is you don't have to play him in the first year. You could say take the entire year off, rest up, heal up, get back to 100%, and then we'll play you next year when the team gets a lot better. I know we don't like to see those guys take a year off like they used to. I mean, in the old days, you take a first-round quarterback, you didn't see the field in the first year.
Right. I don't know. One thing that Miami has to worry about is, well, it's not even that they have to worry about it. Here, let me rephrase it. When you look at Miami and you see that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going out there and making Devontae Parker look good, making this team win games or keep into games and putting up points, you see that success a little bit where this team could possibly be. And they're riddled without talent because they've drafted them. They've traded them all the way for draft picks.
Yeah.
And bringing in draft picks doesn't always fix that hole. I mean, we've seen this with a lot of other teams that get...
True.
I think about...
even the Patriots.
Robert Griffin with his trade and the Rams getting 3 picks. None of those players even play in the league anymore.
But just like I said with Joe Burrow, I don't hate swinging the bat at quarterback, even if it's not the guy. I would
like Miami to ignore a quarterback right now and do like all just offensive line,
build the best team you can build.
Start right in the middle and work your way out and see what comes from that. Because even if you go out and you get Tua and that's what you spend your top draft pick on and next year you play him, he could just be Rosen and be out 1 year.
Yeah, he definitely could. And
And that's not a knock on Tua. That's not a knock. What if it was Jake Fromm? The same thing, which I think is the best quarterback in the draft right now. Until I go through everything, it could be him, and he could flop because this team is not built to have a young rookie quarterback behind center because you don't have it. You have to have a savvy veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick to play in this game. So that's what I'm saying is, why don't you build your core of your defensive line, offensive line with all these draft picks you got, and then worry about a quarterback after all that's said and done?
You know who you sound like?
What?
Me. That's exactly what I've said forever. That's what I said about the Cardinals. That's what I said about teams. You have to put young quarterbacks in a position to succeed. I'm glad you're coming around. Welcome to the team, Drew. Welcome to the team. But I agree with you.
I take all that back.
I do. Yeah, I do agree with you, though. You need to kind of build a team and kind of develop a situation where a young quarterback's going to succeed in Miami before anything else happens. Right now, you can take Joe Burrow, take your pick. You could take Andrew Luck as a rookie quarterback, throw him in this system. It's probably not going to look good. The reason Fitzpatrick's succeeding is because Fitzpatrick's just a monster. He's a guy that it doesn't matter how bad the situation is or who my receivers are. I'm throwing for 300 yards. And, 3 or 4 of those passes might go to the other team, but we're going to put some yards up. We're going to put some points up.
I'm going to make somebody look good.
That's exactly. And they have him for another year. They have Fitzpatrick for another year.
I'm
not afraid to say that's the right move. I'm with you. I think that might be the better move, but I also don't hate falling in love with Tua and saying, we'll take another year.
Flores can't do that.
No.
Brian Flores cannot do that. He cannot go out and do this. I think it's a smart thing. And, maybe it's not an offensive lineman. Maybe it's a middle linebacker because he's the best player available at 2. My point is focus on everything else and then focus on quarterback because you got Fitzpatrick, you got Rosen, you already got him there. Those are expendable pieces until next year's draft.
Big pick for the Buffalo Bills. I'm hoping that the Bills can pull this off, man. Again, think it much easier for the Titans getting into the playoffs if they do. And I'm sure Steeler fans are kind of watching with bated breath because I don't want to say it's over, but it's close to over if they win this one. They're basically going to be the 6th seed. So, again, important. I'm glad the Bills are doing their job. Buffalo needs this one to run down the Patriots. We talked about that before.
Man, we got to get going.
We do.
We've been stuck on all these games and other stuff.
We definitely do. Eagles versus the Redskins. Yuck.
Dwayne Haskins played his best game of his career.
Against one of the weakest secondary he's going to face, but that's exactly what I want to see. Terry McLaurin looked good. Yeah. Dwayne Haskins looked good. Yeah. They did a great job of hanging with a division rival. That's all I can say. This is all positives. I'm only staying positive on the Redskins. And what did I tell you before? I was like, I think this game might be closer than people think when we look at how bad the Eagles have been. That being said, you said the Eagles are in the way. I agree. They're in the Cowboys' way for this division. The Cowboys showed today maybe we can go into the NFC playoffs and upset somebody. I know you're saying it's one game, but they showed a flash. I'm waiting for that flash against the Eagles.
I'm not going to say it's one game. It's kind of the Rams kind of showing who they were earlier in the season. They just had a 3-game winning streak, and it seemed like a good speed bump was the Cowboys. And I picked the Rams to win because I believed in the hype around them, and I believed that the Cowboys are terrible, and it flopped in my face.
You're just trying to help me catch up.
I was trying to get you back closer.
I appreciate that. I do. I needed every bit of that help this week.
But that's not the game we're talking about. We are talking about this Eagles team and this Redskins team. And
do they have any living receivers at this point? Are they all retired?
Things
are getting thin in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I feel so bad for them because they are. Their own destiny is in their own hand. They could, win the division, but I just don't see it happening.
And Sharif wants to know, how many years does Adrian Peterson have left? As long as Darius Geis keeps getting hurt, aren't you going to keep giving him those 1-year contracts? Rolling the cheese out like, hey, Adrian Peterson, give us another year, man. Come on, AP, give us one more year. Just stick with the team. I think the Redskins are just waiting on Darius Geis to put a healthy year out there, and then they'll say, we don't need AP anymore. But right now, when your running back room looks like it does, where Chris Thompson is barely ever active and barely ever healthy at this time of the year, and Darius Geis is hurt and everything else, you want to have the workhorse that is almost there week in and week out regardless, the ageless wonder. And if you're AP, you love the game, you want to keep playing, this is the best chance for you to do that because they're still committed to the run. You're still going to touch the ball when you're the starting running back.
I don't know.
It's the marriage made in heaven.
It's a change of coaches. They might look at him as just an expendable piece that might just be gone. I as far as playing next year, I think he will. I can't promise anybody he's going to play in a Redskins uniform.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's a guarantee either, but if you're the Redskins, who in that running back room is that great that you just can't find a spot for
The
Adrian
guy that
Peterson?
goes out and drafts his own guy.
Potentially.
So, I mean, realistically, besides him, it's a young man's game. Well, and Frank Gore.
But would you also run Darius Geis? I mean, you like what
you're
Darius Geis has done, but
Yeah.
you also know he's injury prone, so it's nice to have that cheap,
When
savvy veteran behind
When
him.
has he been injury prone? His whole college career has never hurt.
I know, and now in the pros, he's been hurt like 5 times. So, and if you're not sure what Drew's talking about, he said that going into this year. I've never been hurt before. Last year was just an
Injury
aberration.
prone.
I know.
Oh, man.
And now he's hurt all the time. So, yeah, I agree with you there.
Let's go to the next game.
Important win for the Eagles. Good showing by the Redskins. I think we can leave it there. Seahawks versus Panthers. Another close matchup. The Panthers hung with it. This is my big takeaway here.
Late in the game.
My big takeaway here.
It was
Kyle
a blow-
Allen.
It was a blowaway for a while there. It was just blowing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're...
But they let him crawl back in there. Everything
Sorry.
else. My big takeaway from this game is Kyle Allen, 3 more picks. 3 more picks from a young quarterback. And you were kind of defending him, but everyone's ready to just cast Cam Newton out to sea and say it's time to move on from Cam, and maybe it is. But my point is, are we going to see the Panthers kind of get cold feet on that? Are the Panthers going to say Kyle Allen has been less impressive than those first few games, and now that everyone's got some tape on him, he sure seems to be turning the ball over a lot? I don't know, Drew. I look at this, and I'm kind of with you. They're a little under-talented in their weapons department. I like DJ Moore. I like Curtis Samuel. I always want to call him Stewart. It's not. They used to have
John
Stewart. Yeah, but they don't anymore. But they're definitely not the most talented wide receiving group in football. So maybe that's part of it. But too many times I see this young guy put the ball in jeopardy. And that's not what you do to win games in football. I've been critical of Jameis Winston. I got to be critical of Kyle Allen for doing the same thing.
Two different things. Jameis Winston's playing his 5th year as a pro with a team built around him. Kyle Allen has not.
And better receiving weapons. Yes.
Kyle Allen is playing with a team that is not built to play with him. It's built to play around Cam Newton. This game did not have Greg Little or Greg Olsen playing in this. That's his left tackle and his tight end. Yeah, you've seen him do it with those guys in the game too, where they're there and he's throwing 3 picks. But I, again, will defend him once more, is let's get a training camp. Let's get mini camps. Let's get an off season where they can build this playbook, they can build this guy and team around him and see where it goes from there, because that flash in the pan, usually those flash in the pan means that there's a little bit of talent there.
Right.
You don't go 5 games, 6 games without throwing a pick. If you're
RG3,
if
Vince
you're a terrible
Young.
player, no, they threw picks.
Well, no, I get what you're saying, but my point is you're talking about the flash in the pan. Those guys had flashes in the pan.
Yeah, but there's a different
Johnny
style.
Manziel.
There's a difference. Well, I don't know. Johnny ever
He
had
had
a flash
he
in
had
the
a
pan.
few games, and everyone's like,
But
we're good
those
again
are-
in
those
Cleveland.
are different style of quarterbacks. Those are not a pocket passer like Kyle Allen is.
Okay.
I get it, but all I'm saying is I'm not saying don't draft a quarterback, because maybe you still do. You go with these young guys. You're gonna have 3 young guys in your quarterback. But this is all up to the head coach. But to say Kyle Allen's done, or you got to be criticism of him, yeah, you got to. But done, no. You got.
We're not saying cut the kid.
You got to build around this guy first before you can sit there and say, he's garbage. I know you're not. But
Yeah, no, and I'm with you in some sense. The only takeaway I can say here is good job by the Seahawks winning this game. The Falcons did them a favor. Now you get that win and get the first seed kind of scenario that you're going to have at home with the 12th man screaming here in a couple weeks at the 49ers. You already did the hard work. You won on the road. It took overtime. It took a lot of injuries, but that doesn't matter. All you did was get the win. Now you get to play that home almost playoff game against the 49ers coming up here in a week or two.
And we're not there yet, but we got to remember this 49ers team is getting beat up. It is getting beat up. D Ford's out. I think Richard Sherman might be out for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not D Ford, but Richard Sherman's been playing great ball. Great ball.
And Sharif wants to know, should Ron Rivera be interested in the Redskins job? I will say this as a last resort, because I think working under Dan Snyder is always a death sentence. Because he's going to go and make the decisions he wants to and not leave it up to his football personnel like a lot of good owners should. It's almost the same as Jerry Jones, and it's just irony that they're both in the same division. But I don't think I want to work with Dan Snyder as Ron Rivera. Instead, if I'm his agent, I'm calling Jimmy Haslam up for the Browns, and I'm saying, man, you got a lot of talent. I can help you turn that defense around, and I can get some of these attitudes under control, and maybe then we can challenge teams like the Ravens and the Steelers and make the Browns a powerhouse like they could be. Joseph
says, good to see you, man. He goes, I don't think it was ever meant for Allen to be starting this year. You're 100% correct. He is a legit backup as a quarterback right now. Exactly. And that's my point, Joseph, is give an off season, give a new head coach, build a team around Kyle Allen, then what could happen? I mean, you got to remember RG3, like you brought up, Vince Young. All these guys had offenses and an off season to build up this guy and what fits around him.
So you're preaching patience. Stay patient as the Carolina Panthers.
I would think so. Give him 1 year.
I'm saying you're not in a position to do anything about it. So, yeah, you got to give him another year. You're not drafting a top quarterback. Maybe Jake Fromm falls to you, but again, I have my doubts about him. I know you're much higher on him than I am, but I have a lot of doubts about the Georgia quarterback coming out in this draft. I don't think the right move is go and bring another 23-year-old quarterback, 22-year-old quarterback, 21-year-old quarterback.
You need a veteran.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't hate it. I'm just saying.
Get Mariota.
Yeah. Problem solved. We'll move on. Let's talk about the Jags and how they managed to come back on the Raiders today. Raiders could have won this game. The Titans dropped it. Potentially the Steelers could drop their game. Potentially the Colts have a tough matchup against the Saints on Sunday night, and you lose to the Jaguars. I've been preaching this all year long, how I love their mentality, how they step up, how John Gruden, even if they don't have the talent, they're playing this game. A lot of that kind of came back and slapped me in the face after I watched this game a little bit, because this is where you need the mentality win.
Joseph also goes off and says he thinks that Cam and Allen should stay in Carolina and let Allen build behind Cam.
The question is, he's going to need snaps. If he is going to be your starting quarterback, you need reps with him during the regular season. And is Cam Newton going to be okay? And is he going to poison the locker room?
Two different styles of quarterback, too.
I don't know. It very, very, very much true. But
you can't, I don't even know.
It's not an easy shift.
It's not. It's like, even if you start with Allen and you let Cam be the backup, you're right. The locker room will be divided because Cam was there for so long.
Right.
This has to be a decision made by the GM saying, okay, if Allen's your guy, you have to cut your ties with Cam because Cam has people that are still believing in Cam. You remember, he didn't really play this year.
And Joseph says Minshew magic spoils the Raiders' last home game. And that's exactly my point. I've been saying mentality. And I picked the Jaguars to win this game. And then I heard them talk about this, and they're like, this is the last home game they'll have in Oakland. More than likely, unless that stadium has further setbacks in Vegas and they have to cut another one-year deal. I was like, ooh, I didn't think of that. And there's a reason they're losing this game. Because the Raiders are going to be hyped up for that, and then they fell flat. I don't even want to say it was Minshew. I want to say the Raiders choked here. At home. That's the legacy you're leaving in Oakland. This was the last game. This was the big send-off, the last hurrah.
Yeah.
And you had playoff aspirations. You're still alive in the playoffs. You win this one. It's not over. Now it's over.
I'm going to let that soak in.
Even though I picked the Jaguars to win, I am a little disappointed in John Gruden and the Raiders. I'm a little disappointed in the silver and black. This needed to be a win, not just for the playoffs, but also kind of is that last goodbye to a city that has been one of the most kind of influential in sports, even if you're not always the most successful. Nobody wanted to go to Oakland. Every Oakland game, the fans are there screaming their hearts out.
This is where you miss players like Burfict. This is where you miss a true
Antonio Brown,
a true vocal leader in your locker room.
Vocal, maybe not a leader. I'm kidding.
I'm not even talking about AB right now.
I know.
So this is where you miss it because I know people are going to say that Derek Carr is a leader, but I don't know if he has the backing of his teammates. You need someone in there to keep this team going because, as you want to bring up AB, when AB left, he was excited to leave, and the Raiders used that as their momentum going forward. And I brought that up in the show, and you can go back into it and look at it. This momentum only lasts for so long.
Yeah, it was 1 week for them.
And then you jump into whatever the next thing is that upsets them, is Burfict getting suspended for that hit. Oh, it's motivation, but it only lasts for so long. I think what's going on here is John Gruden is not the leader that the players want, verbally getting them excited enough.
You mean Derek Carr?
I mean, no, I'm talking about John Gruden.
Oh, okay.
As well, because he's there. He is the leader, but he's not moving these young men into playoff situations. This should never even been a close game. The Jags are a terrible team.
Well, they quit too. And they quit too. And then you're letting a group of quitters come back.
The Raiders, who have played well and have beaten some decent teams, let a team like the Jaguars come back. That is a lack of leadership in that locker room at the half, sitting there going, "Come on, guys, we got to do more than this. We got to battle it up. We got to get going."
It wasn't even halftime. They were up 16-3 going into the second half. This was we need to close it out, boys. Let's finish it up.
That's
I mean,
what
we're
I'm
in
saying.
Oakland.
That's what I'm getting at.
Let's not relax.
That's what I'm getting at.
Well, you're right.
Derek
you're
Carr,
right.
John Gruden, whoever else it is, isn't the leader that's leading these men to win.
At what point are you like, we're going to say goodbye? Like, I want to play 4 quarters. I want to go and run a score up on a team and show the Raiders fans that are still here in Oakland and are going to be our fans when we move to L.A. Vegas. When we move to Vegas, this is the game that you want to see them kind of step up and just trash a team. You want to see them just run the score up.
That's where I think they're
it didn't happen.
They're missing a leader in
They
that
shut it
room.
off. And meanwhile, you got Minshew, who, again, regardless of how you feel about him, regardless of what you think about his stats and the play style and what Jacksonville looks like as a team, rallied a group of guys that have underperformed for weeks and got him to beat a team like Oakland in their last home game. Impressive win. And I've been critical of Minshew at times, but I think this is an incredibly impressive win for him.
Yeah, this is
not enough to say throw Nick Foles out. We don't need him next year, but this is what you want to see as a coach.
This is a worse loss for the Raiders than it is a win for the Jags. I'm obviously not. I'm gonna throw out the last time in Oakland. I'm just gonna throw that completely out. It's just you can't lose to a team like this when you're talking about keeping your playoffs hopes alive. They're not. It's not a division rival. You're not used to playing this team. And you lose like this.
Yeah, somehow you just play the Titans every year. I don't know why that is. We played Oakland like 5 of the last 7 or something like
Let's
that.
go to the next game.
Let's talk about the Browns. Speaking of disappointments, let's go to the Browns. We kind of said that in the last episode, but man, Cardinals, good win for them. Browns, just like Oakland, and I'm going to go in on them too, kind of like winning in Oakland. You're still in the hunt. You were still in the hunt, and then you choked against a team that is mathematically out of it. I think this is a kind of indictment on Freddie Kitchens, and they said they're sticking with him, and I think that's the wrong choice, even though I'm Mr. Give your coach more than 1 year, give your coach 3 years before you decide.
Was it a rumor, or did it officially?
I saw a story on it. They're saying they're interested. It was the Browns saying that they're interested in sticking with Freddie Kitchens. So it's one of those situations that when I see it, that could change. We get to the offseason, and you get that siren song of Mike McCarthy, I should say. Mike McCarthy, better than Mike Malarkey. Mike McCarthy or Ron Rivera saying, I could be your head coach right now, and maybe that changes. Right now they're saying they're committed to Freddie Kitchens being their coach next year. I think that's the wrong move, especially when you talk about dropping a game like this, because this team, you beat the Cardinals, who have been a struggling team for a lot of this year.
Right.
You're still in the hunt, especially if the Bills get the job done tonight.
Yeah.
If the Bills win tonight and the Texans won tonight, you are still in the wild card hunt. Instead, you lose to the Arizona Cardinals. You're basically out of it.
Yeah. Kyler Murray looked good. He broke the Arizona Cardinals team record for rushing yards out of a quarterback this during this game,
beating Kurt Warner's record of 6,
which is good. You saw his team rally around this young player and this young quarterback, and that's a great thing to build on. To beat the Browns, I don't know if that's exciting.
No, it should be.
But this win was good.
This is a team that's still on paper at the very least
Myles
further
Garrett's
ahead than you are.
him not being there and on that field is huge on that defense.
I do too. He's the best piece in that defense for sure. You would have liked to have him after Kyler Murray when we talk about this offensive line. But I think a lot of this is just the offense not doing their job. I know they gave up a lot of points today, and I know they scored, but Nick Chubb did a lot of the work. I think this comes down to guys like Jarvis Landry and guys like Odell Beckham not doing enough when you talk about having what do we say in the offseason? This might be the best tandem at wide receiver in football, and now they definitely don't look like it. I think there's only one spot to be disappointed, and that's the offense.
Yeah.
Well, defense, too. You can not give up that many points to the Cardinals, but they're depleted.
Let's move on to the next game.
Speaking of disappointments, the Vikings and the Chargers, Drew. What were you thinking? What were you thinking, man?
I believe the hype that this was a great game for the Chargers to
Fool's
upset
gold,
a better
baby.
team, man. I didn't say that they were going to be the best team.
They needed to be the best team out of those two.
They beat the Packers.
I know.
17 to 10. This is what should have happened. They just looked completely off. You had Melvin Gordon fumbling the ball.
Gross.
Even Dalvin Cook got hurt, and they couldn't beat him.
And to be fair, Madison has looked very good as a backup running back coming in behind him. They've almost looked identical. I mean, it's hard to tell. You got to look at the numbers because they have the same hairstyle and everything. You got the helmet on; they look like the same guy. But the Vikings, again, big win for a team that needed to close the deal. Now I think they're very comfortably in the running for a wild card. Still on the Packers' heels to steal this division, but I don't think it happens. This is a good win, though. This is a very good win because this is a team that, even despite the record, is dangerous. They came out and said, we're not playing today. We're not going to, this isn't staying close. There's no chance we lose this. They dominated from start to finish.
And that's really honestly without Thielen being 100% too.
Yeah.
I don't really know much there is to say about the Chargers except...
Next year, baby.
Maybe?
Next year, maybe. Exactly. I'll say this about the Chargers. You got to get an offensive line. You got to protect Phillip Rivers. He's in the twilight of his career, and this man has never had anyone blocking for him. Pretty much as far as I can remember.
Early part of the career.
And even then, they were like okay, and Tomlinson looked good, but they weren't like ever great pass blockers. I think we've taken for granted how much of a beating that he's taken. We talk about Big Ben taking hits. He's taken a beating too as the Chargers quarterback, and they have never done a good enough job putting offensive linemen around him.
Right.
I think that's why they're not succeeding this year, or a chunk of it. That and injury.
Let's talk about another disappointing game.
No, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I was ready for the Cowboys to show up, and they showed up.
God, why did I believe in the Rams?
Cowboys fans, let me hear it, man. Again,
why did I believe that the Rams could win
I already
this
told you.
game?
You're trying to let me back into the race. I said the Cowboys were going to win. I didn't feel good about it at the time. I even told you, I was like, why are you making me pick the Cowboys, Drew?
Run Gurley into the ground. 11 touches on the ground is not enough. I don't care if it's 11 for 20 yards. Run him another 11 times. God.
Here's the only thing I'll say to that. Yes, you're in the playoff race. Yes, you need to go and steal a wild card. The Rams needed this win. But let's think about the future. Does winning this game and sacrificing Todd Gurley's health, would you sacrifice Todd Gurley to win this game? No, you wouldn't, right? If Todd Gurley could recover...
Then you shouldn't play in the NFL.
No. You're the coach. You're Sean McVay. It's not your job. Like, yes, Todd Gurley should want to run hard on every play. But you're Sean McVay, or you're the GM.
Yeah.
And you're saying, I've got years and years of years ahead of me here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to sacrifice Todd Gurley's entire career because you want to beat the Dallas Cowboys right now? And you look at the way the rest of the team played, that's still not happening.
To win the Super Bowl, yeah, I would.
Well, okay, so that was last year, but I'm talking about right now.
No, I'm talking about right now. They are 8-5. They could have been 9-5. They could have.
And in the race with the Vikings.
Exactly. And now they're not. Now they're 8-6.
Important loss. I definitely agree. They need the Vikings to basically lose out, and they need to win out. The good news for them, the Vikings play a tough schedule, and I'm pretty sure the Rams' schedule is a little easier.
And their offensive line is still old.
Yes.
These guys are not going to be there.
Precisely.
I know they have been underperforming, but they're still your offensive line now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. You're in the Super Bowl last year. You lost an ugly loss. You have a chance to maybe possibly get back into it. And you let a team that's just been looking like just a dumpster fire. And it's not just getting beat by 10 points. It's not getting beat by 7-3. It's getting just handed to you, man. When they give up 44 points.
You know what this reminded me of? This is the kid that gets... The Cowboys are the kid that get picked on at school every day by everybody. And the Rams were just the wrong one. Here's the day where he snaps. They showed up. They're like, we're going to beat this team. We're going to go continue on. We're going to try to win a playoff or a game here and make our way into the playoffs. And the Vikings drop one of these tough games here at the end of their schedule. The Cowboys said, you picked the wrong day. That's exactly what this reminded me of. The Cowboys said,
my mom already yelled at me earlier today.
Yeah. We were a good team.
And by mom, I mean Jerry Jones.
We're a good team. We have Dak Prescott looking to get paid. We have Ezekiel Elliott who's looking to live up to that money. We've got a defense looking to play better. We have Amari Cooper looking like a top 10 wide receiver. Our offensive line is probably third in the NFL behind not the Rams, definitely not the Rams, behind the Colts and the Ravens. We have all the pieces we need to beat a team like the Rams. And that's exactly what they did. They came out, and it was not even close. There was a little bit of confusion with the kickoff. They almost gave the Rams the ball twice, but even if they did, Drew, I don't think it matters. The Cowboys were up like 28-7 at halftime. This is over at half. And I just think it came down to motivation. The Cowboys said, we've been embarrassed for too long. It's time to make a statement, and they did today. I think there's an incredibly important win for the Cowboys and an incredibly important loss for the Rams because now they're the team on the outside looking in, and it's not even close.
It's terrible. Let's just move on. Let's get to a game.
You're too hurt to talk about it.
It's just I'm not too hurt. It just
they disappointed you.
It's okay if it was like a close game. I'm not even a Rams fan. It's okay if it was a close game, but getting beat in that fashion.
You're supposed to be a playoff team, right?
Yeah, you got to be better than that.
It wasn't their week. That's all I can say. Was not the Rams' week. Hopefully they bounce back because I still think football is better when you're looking at these close races. And I think right now with the Vikings beating the Chargers, it's 2 games up now? It's going to take some spectacular results for the Rams to get the job done.
Yeah. Nope.
49ers, Falcons. Speaking of disappointments.
Wow.
It's been 4 disappointing games in a row.
Wow.
They're just letting us down.
Yeah.
Oh, 49ers.
Did we pick this game on the offseason too?
We picked the Falcons to win this game. But then again, we picked the Falcons to win every game, so we can't be surprised if they win a few.
10 games.
Yeah, and whose call was that?
Yours?
Yeah, exactly. Mine. Sure. I was the one all in on the Falcons. No, I'm just kidding. I liked them too.
Yeah.
I did.
We did. We did like them.
This was for Dan Quinn, and I think the 49ers came in with the gloves down a little bit. They let this hang around close, and then the Falcons punched them in the mouth right at the end of the game.
I'm gonna stick with injuries. I think injuries are finally catching up to the Niners, and you need that next man up mentality. And it was a tough game to go out and beat a team like the Falcons. And I know that sounds funny, but I think this is exactly what you saw last year with them. Is you saw a very disappointing start to a season, and at the very end, you saw what could have been. And is that Dan Quinn not getting this team prepared early on the season until the later part, where it's like, hey, regardless of injuries or whatever, you guys still, need to play at a top level because you are all talented. I mean, man, I'm not saying the 49ers are dead in the water, but this is a concerning loss for the Niners. You cannot let a team like this beat you on a last touchdown, because you take that mentality into the playoffs. And when you go into the playoffs, you're gonna face a team like like the Vikings, or you're gonna face a team the Saints, and they're not gonna allow that last minute you have to be able to stop them.
I think it's a bit of a letdown. You had that huge emotional high coming back to beat the Saints on the road the week before in a last-second touchdown. I mean, they had, 30 seconds to score, and they did.
Yeah.
You come off that high, and you come into this game, and you're like, it's the Falcons. I can breathe easy.
Yeah.
And like I said, you let your guard down in the NFL, you can get beat. I think that's exactly what this was, and I also don't think it matters. I really don't, because you still have to beat the Seahawks. That was always the case. If the Seahawks, even if you win this game, Seahawks beat you here in Week 17, I think they play, you're still the team that loses the NFC West. So even though they lost here,
this is a mentality game, man. This is a game that you kind of just
I'd like to see
carry it on your back.
I'd like to see the win, but on the other hand, I'm saying that even though they lost here, this could be the wake-up call that they need. Like, whoa, we still got to play hard.
Maybe.
We still got to play hard. I don't hate this one as much as some of these other ones because, again, the 49ers came off that huge win in New Orleans. Huge win against a team that was just as much of a match. To watch them let their guard down a little bit against a team like the Falcons, especially when they have the Seahawks left to play here, I'm not ready to kill them just yet. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but maybe you're right. Maybe this is just injuries starting to catch up with them.
All right, let's pick our.
I already took
games.
the Bills. I know. Spoiler alert for everybody. I took the Bills. I think this team is going to win. Sean gave us the update saying Buffalo took the lead. Drew, I don't want you to know something that I don't. The Buffalo.
Oh, I'm taking the
Bills
Buffalo
are ahead. All right, surprise.
No, I'm not surprised. Or it shouldn't be a surprise. I'm taking the Bills. The Bills should win this game. I think that they're a more complete team. I know the Steelers are playing really well, but the Steelers are playing with their strings slowly coming unattached from them. It's only like another player that goes down, and and this team was again back to where it is. Yeah, they're playing really well, but what if it's Fitzpatrick that goes down with an injury because he's playing out of his mind, trying to do the best he can against a really tough run defense?
Is that the best trade of this year?
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically turned them into a playoff team by himself. He has more interceptions by himself than the Dolphins have as a team.
Oh, yeah.
Impressive.
He was the best player of that defense.
My last thoughts, I know this has nothing to do with the game, but my kind of final thought on this is if you're Miami, I understand you want to re-establish yourself, you want to kind of refresh the locker room. Why are you trading a 22-year-old safety, even for a first-round pick? He's 22, and he's good in the NFL. That's exactly what you want out of a first-round pick, that he's young and he's good. You have both of those things. You know it for sure. Instead, now you traded him for a first-round pick that is likely to be somewhere around 19 to 25. And, more importantly than that, the guy you take with that pick, you don't know that he's going to be good.
That's why you're going to see them draft a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a running back in this next year's first top 3 picks.
Oh. No, I think they go defense. I think Brian Flores goes defense. I think he's going to say, we need an identity, baby.
He's not the one drafted.
That is true. That is true. It usually goes to the GM, but when you're the GM, you want to talk to the head coach. And he says, look, there's one thing I know, and that's defense. I'm a linebackers coach. There's one thing I know.
I would like a defensive lineman, a linebacker, and a safety, and they're like,
let's draft a kicker.
Quarterback, wide receiver, running back.
And they could use all 3 of those things. But I don't think that Miami's going that direction. I don't want to go back to Miami, but let me say this. Pittsburgh giving up this first-round pick for a 22-year-old safety it's a genius move.
It was a great move.
You know a guy, you just spent your first-round pick this year on a 22-year-old safety that you know is a great NFL player.
Why did you do it for the Steelers? That's what I want to know.
What do you mean?
Why the Steelers? You could have
because they asked. Because a lot of people
could have gone to Fitzpatrick and you could have given him to the Saints. You could have given him to the Saints.
I guess they decided one Fitzpatrick was enough.
But not the Steelers. Anyways, moving on. Monday night, got the Indianapolis Colts going on the road to face New Orleans Saints.
You know, I want to say this is Saints all the way because when you look at it on paper, Indy's slumping a little bit. They're not playing as well. But this is kind of like we talked about the Browns, kind of like we talked about the Raiders. This is must win if you're going to crawl your way back into it, especially. I think that decision, or the result of this game depends a lot on how the Sunday night game goes. Because if the Steelers win, the Colts are going to come into this game a little flat. They're going to say, it's over, man. We're out. If the Steelers lose, the Colts are going to go into this game saying, we're alive. We need this win more than we need anything.
So you're picking the Colts?
No, I'm going to take the Saints.
But you said
at home. I was going to say it's going to be a good game. What I am going to change is how close this game winds up based on the Sunday night result. I think if the Steelers lose, the Colts will play this game very tough. You're going to see them run hard. Yeah. You're going to see them play hard. This offensive line is going to dominate the Saints, and it's going to be a close game that the Saints ultimately pull out because they're going to want to wind up getting that first seed if they can. But if the Steelers win, this is a blowout. Saints are going to win it easy because they're going to be the only motivated team in this game. I think the Saints win it either way, but I've got to go with the Saints.
Yeah, I'm taking the Saints, but I'm going to take about 21
You were hoping
points.
I was taking the Colts, right?
Yeah, I'm taking the Saints by 21 points. Indianapolis is banged up. Ebron's out. Hilton doesn't look like he's playing. I know Max back didn't seem to make a difference.
With a broken hand. I know he's playing, but he's playing with broken bones in his hand.
It doesn't make a difference. Honestly, I think it's a 21-point difference. I think the Saints just handily beat the Colts. I'm surprised they didn't get rid of this game and put a different game in it.
And Sean, man, we're glad you stuck with us. He says he's happy that we both picked the Bills, and we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about baseball. We're actually going to move that show to Wednesday because I am going to be out of town for work. I hope to catch you guys then. I know we took the Colts in the offseason, Drew. We're both going Saints. Any final thoughts?
I'll be mad if we were right during the offseason and the Colts win this game.
We're going to wind up having a better record in the offseason because those guys are just unbeatable.
Those guys are way smarter than we are.
Absolutely. All right, special thanks here.
Yeah, guys, thank you again for all your likes, comments, and shares. It means the world to us. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but gosh, it means everything to us when you guys do that. So Michael, Kathy, Jacob, Frank, Martavius, Will, George, Austin, Scott, Sean, James, Steve, Rob, Chad, Michael, Sharif, Joseph. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Absolutely. My final thoughts are, man, what a great week for me and what a bad week for Drew. 4-0, baby. Dude, against games we disagreed. I never get this lucky. Dude,
you might have tied back up with me, okay?
I think I'm in the lead. More on that on Wednesday. It was an amazing week. Again, a lot of great football play here. I think things are going to get a little bit worse going forward, but there'll be a couple important games that are going to be fun to watch. This was probably the best week where everyone was playing for something. Next week, a lot of teams are going to be dead and not as interested in it. We'll be playing for draft picks. Yeah. Won't be as interesting, but at the very least, I enjoyed the heck out of this week. And let me tell you, even though my team lost, it was just a great week for football. The Redskins battled a playoff team like the Eagles. What? It was great. I can't wait to talk more about it going forward. Team? Could be. Just ask Dallas. Are they? I don't know.
I don't know if they are.
All right, guys. We'll be back on Wednesday, like we said, to do our variety show. So if you have something that you want to talk about, 7:45 Eastern, 6:45 Central, we'll be there for you. As well as a lot of stuff going on in the world of football as well. Doesn't have to be football, but it can be. Whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Wednesday's your day.
This week.
Right, this week. Normally Tuesday.
Yeah.
So for Sports Around the Bar.
Yeah.
I am Jakey Bartender.
Yes, you are.
This is Drew.
I am.
On Center Stool.
Yes.
Agreeing with you too much.
Yes.
We'll see you on Wednesday.
See ya.